Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Memphis. We got a packed show lined up for you guys today. To start off the show, we're going to obviously recap all the games that happened last night. Two 9 and 10 seed matchups between the Miami Heat and Chicago Bulls, the Dallas Mavericks and the Sacramento Kings in the Western Conference. We're going to recap both of those games, how both teams sit before their matchups on Friday for the right to face the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're gonna get into everything about these two games because these two games were incredibly interesting last night. From there, we're gonna take a look at the Sacramento Kings, dive a little bit deeper into their side. Obviously, GM Monty McNair fired or part ways late last night, immediately after the game. We're going to talk a little bit about the Sacramento Kings, what kind of played into that decision, and what's really next for this team because officially eliminated from this year's playoffs and still with kind of a loaded roster, still having a big three on their roster with DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Domantas Sabonis. These are three players that are still playing extremely well. Sabonis in the prime of his career, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Sacramento Kings in my second segment. From there, we're going to take a look at Nico Harrison, some recent news about the Luka Doncic trade. I'm going to get into all the facts about that, and then I'm going to get into a little bit about the speculation and give a little bit of my opinion about what's going on behind closed doors. Not just my opinion, some stuff I've heard from NBA insiders around the league about what could be possibly going on behind closed doors and what led to Luka Doncic officially being traded to the Los Angeles Lakers a few months ago. From there, we're going to take a look at the NBA power rankings for both conferences, both the East and the West. And to close out the show, we're going to take a look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. What is the ceiling for this team? How good can they be? How far can they go in this year's playoffs? Are they ready for the spotlight with such a young team? Can Shai Gilgeous-Alexander bring them to the promised land? We're going to talk a little bit about that. And it should be an unbelievable show. But of course, before I get started, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC podcast, our GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on air, ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net for your questions. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. But getting right into it here, we're going to start off the show talking about the 9 and 10 seeds matchups last night in the play-in tournament. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we had the Miami Heat squaring off against the Chicago Bulls. We're going to start there in the Eastern Conference. Miami winning this game 109-90. And honestly, what was really just a domination across the board for this team. It really was not close from the get-go. Miami building out to a 11-point lead, 24-point lead to close out the first half. And it was kind of just Chicago tried to close the distance in the third quarter, but at the end of the day, Miami was just too much for this team, and they just barreled through them. That's what it felt like, and that's what ended up happening. Tyler Herro finishing the game with 38 points, possibly one of his best playoff performances since entering the league. Obviously, this is his first playoffs without Jimmy Butler. I know Jimmy Butler was hurt last season, but with Tyler Herro kind of taking that mantle as number one option on this team, not only scoring, but in general, he's really blossomed into that role, and he's continuing to grow as an offensive talent, as a leader in the locker room, and beyond. On the defensive end, of course, they still have Bam Adebayo. Andrew Wiggins dropping 20 points and 9 rebounds in this game. Massive contributions from him off the bench. Continuing to play well as after the trade from Golden State. He was part of the trade that sent Jimmy Butler to Golden State, but he's still a phenomenal player. He's still a great two-way player that can get you, in this case, 20 points. Usually can get you about 10 to 15 points a night, 5 to 7 rebounds a night. Can play good defense on their best, one of their best two-way play, or one of their best offensive scorers. He's a great blanket. He's a great security blanket on that end of the floor in general. And yeah, he's a great player in general. He's highly underrated for his skill set. Um, but yeah, also Bam Adebayo finished with 15 points and 12 rebounds. Typical Bam Adebayo style of play. But it's interesting to see 12 rebounds, especially when he's going up against a Nikola Vucevic in the paint. It's just a battle in the interior. And actually, funny enough, Bam Adebayo and Vucevic split off for 12 rebounds apiece. So, and that's exactly where I'm going. On the other side, we had Josh Giddey going off for 25 points and 10 rebounds. Typical stat line from him. Kobe White, 17 points. Josh Giddey has played phenomenally since the All-Star break passed. He deserves all the credit in the world. We all remember his game winner. Honestly, one of the top 3 finishes of the NBA season this year, when he called game from half court, shooting a half court 3 over LeBron James. Just an unbelievable game when the Chicago Bulls came back from down 17 points in the fourth quarter, down by 6 points with 9 seconds to play, and they miraculously pulled off the comeback win, and it was capped off by that Josh Giddey 3. Kobe White as well, continuing to lead this team from the guard position, specifically from after trading Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan the year prior to the Sacramento Kings. Kobe White continued to grow into this role, similar to Tyler Herro. I think Kobe White is a little bit more of a floor general, I'd say. I think Tyler Herro is more like a Steph Curry-esque shooting guard mixed with point guard. Kobe White is more of like a floor general, can facilitate the ball very well, can get you about 15 to 20 points a night with about 5 to 10 assists a night. Honestly, last night he had 5 assists, but it honestly is on that big of a spectrum, between 5 and 10 assists a night usually for him. But yeah, overall, it was a phenomenal game from him. Phenomenal game from the Miami Heat as they pulled this one out 109-90, like I mentioned to start the show. Miami now looks to take on Atlanta on Friday night. I'll preview that matchup a little bit more on Friday, but I'm personally picking Miami to win this game. I think their ability to defend. Erik Spoelstra played a big role in last night's win, especially since in the regular season, not even a week prior, these two teams squared off between Miami and Chicago won that matchup 119-111. Miami pretty much flipped the script on them, and I know that can happen sometimes on any given night, but given Erik Spoelstra's experience being in the league for the last almost 20 years now, well, 20 years might be a stretch, probably about 14, 15 years now, being first starting off as a part of the Pat Riley coaching staff in Miami, eventually being promoted to head coach of this team for, I think, in 2014. Because, yeah, he was a part of the Dwayne Wade team that won the NBA Finals without LeBron when Dwayne Wade won his first championship. And then he was part of the other LeBron teams that eventually won more titles. But that's neither here nor there. The experience that Erik Spoelstra has gives him the edge over a lot of teams. We see it time and time again. We saw it against Boston in 2023 with Joe Mazzulla in his first year, when Erik Spoelstra really just coached circles around him, eventually winning that series 4-3. I wouldn't say that was 100% Erik Spoelstra in terms of how they won, but I would say that he had a definitive role in Miami winning that year in 2023. And this is another prime example of his talent and what he brings to the team in general. But yeah, I'm picking Miami to win this game over Atlanta. I think they'll probably clamp down Trae Young very well. I think we saw the Orlando Magic really just give a formula at how to beat this Atlanta Hawks team. I think in a way, Miami's built similarly. I think they're more guard heavy, and they're with Tyler Herro, with Duncan Robinson. They're a little bit more guard heavy, and they can definitely shoot the ball more. They're not as tall, lengthy as the Orlando Magic players are, such as Apollo Banchero, but they're still a great team. And I think if it ends up as a shooting match, if it ends up as a shootout, I think Miami can win this game if it ends up in that way. I think Tyler Herro can turn it on whenever he wants, especially when he gets hot. He was one of the best collegiate shooters in the NBA in collegiate history, and he's continuing to perform at a very high level down the stretch here as we close the season. So, yeah, I think I just think my pick is Miami will beat Atlanta in the first round and move on to face the Cleveland Cavaliers. Um, yeah, I'll go for it. I was gonna I was thinking about putting in a break here and then talking about the Dallas Mavericks Sacramento game, but we can go straight into it here. Um, Dallas and Dallas and Sacramento squaring off last night in the late game. Dallas winning this one 120 to 106. This was exact. I said this was going to go two ways. Either it's going to be Sacramento could shoot the lights out and their offense moves with incredible pace and rhythm, or B, it's a dogfight. The Dallas Mavericks um, just not instigate, but influence the game with their size, dominate the game in the interior with Anthony Davis, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, all they'll just dominate the interior, and that's exactly what happened. Anthony Davis finishing with 27 points in this one, PJ Washington with 17, and Daniel Gafford with 9 points. It really just was a dominating performance all around. Um, Another key piece of this game was Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson finishing with 16 points to finish the first half, 23 points overall. He was lights out from 3-point range, going 5 for 7 from three, 8 for 11 from the field. He was very efficient last night, and he was a big reason why that interior was open to it for much of that game. That the threat that Klay Thompson poses when he gets that three ball going, we saw it in Steph Curry. I know he's getting a little bit older, but we saw it. We saw it in Golden State with Steph Curry, with how that duo was just unstoppable from sometimes when they got hot. Klay doesn't have Steph anymore, but in a similar fashion with how unstoppable Steph Curry can be sometimes from 3-point range, the Dallas Mavericks are unstoppable in the interior, getting to the offensive glass, getting rebounds, being able to defend, being able to block shots, and being able to destroy the interior and dominate the paint. That is their strength, and with that strength, it kind of collapses the interior for Klay Thompson outside. If Klay Thompson gets it going outside, it it brings everybody out, extends the floor, and it destroys the interior. This team is still a great I wouldn't say this team is still a good team, I'd say. The Dallas Mavericks are still one of the best teams in the NBA. They continue to prove it time and time again. Um, I'm gonna get into this a little bit later in the show, but especially with how the Luka trade transpired, especially with Kyrie Irving tearing his ACL earlier in the season, right after the Luka trade. I think it might have still been February or it might have been early March, one of those two. I just think I just think this Dallas Mavericks team can still compete. I would not be shocked. I think they would give Oklahoma City a little extra run for their money. I still pick Oklahoma City regardless. Dallas plays Memphis to face the right to face for the right to face the OKC in the first round. I think regardless of who faces OKC, they're moving on to the second round. But I do think it would be probably Dallas would probably take at least one, if not two games against Oklahoma City, dominating the interior of that paint. I don't think Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren are ready to stop an Anthony Davis or a PJ Washington or a Daniel Gafford. I just don't think maybe they might be able to stop them individually, But as a team working cohesively, all three of them possibly on the court at the same time, it's gonna be I don't want to call it impossible to stop them, but it's gonna be difficult for anybody to handle this team. And imagine if they still had Kyrie Irving in the starting lineup, if they were fully healthy with Klay Thompson playing the way he is. They that's why in a way this team could have still been competitive in the Western Conference. Say if Kyrie Irving stayed healthy, but we're going to get into that later in the show. I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Sacramento Kings as a whole, kind of recap their whole season, recap from the DeMar DeRozan trade last year to the Aaron Fox trade mid-season to what to expect from this team come this offseason. I'm going to take a short break, and we're going to talk Sacramento Kings basketball when I come back.